New Westminster Veterans Oral History Project. Today's date is December 5th, 2001. The interviewee is Mr. Tyler, who is with the Westminster Regiment. Mr. Tyler, what is your full name?
Walter Edward Tyler.
And what is your date and place of birth?
16th of March, 1920, and I was born in London, England.
And what is your marital status?
I have a wife, Elaine.
And what was her maiden name?
Wintermute.
Okay. Do you have any children?
2 children, 2 girls.
2 girls. So you were born in London, England. How did you make it from London, England to New Westminster?
Well, I came out with my mother and father in 1924 to New Westminster.
Right. And you stayed there for how long?
Until 1952.
Oh, okay.
1952, and then we moved up to Burnaby.
Right, okay. And you've been in the Burnaby area ever since?
Ever since.
Okay, good. What is your current address?
4421 Burke Street.
Okay. And what branch of the armed forces were you enrolled in?
Just in with the Canadian Army.
With the Canadian Army? Okay, and you were with the Westminster Regiment, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so what ranks and positions did you hold during your time of service?
Well, as an infantryman, as a private, corporal in the battalion orderly room sergeant, battalion orderly room, and as an officer, after I got commissioned, I held various positions: training officer, straight infantry officer, several administrative type positions.
Right.
And after the war, I was adjutant of the regiment and company commander with the regiment.
Okay. And so, how long were you enrolled in the armed forces then?
Well, I joined in 1938, and I was on strength of the militia and the Canadian Active Service Force and the Reserve Force after the war, straight through up until the late 1950s. And then I dropped out for a couple of years and then came back on strength and had another 6 or 7 years with the regiment.
So really, it took up much of your life being involved in the armed forces.
Pretty well.
Yeah. Were you retired from active service at any certain time, or did you just stay on?
Well, active service, I was discharged from active service in December of 1945.
Right, but then you kept on with the militia.
And I kept on with the
Right,
Army.
I see. Okay. When you found out that Canada declared war on Germany, what did you feel?
Well, I don't know, we were kind of prepared for it because I had been picked in the middle of August, around about August the 20th, to be part of a machine gun section to go to York Island. And we've been training right along, and we're all set to go. And then on September the 1st, the Canadian Army mobilized, and I mobilized with the unit right away.
All right. So did you go over right away then?
No, we were in New Westminster, and then we went to Dundurn for training. We came back to Vancouver. And we went back to Camp Borden. And we left for overseas. And I went with the advance party. We left on September the 18th in 1941.
1940. So you went quite early on then, compared to many. So what sort of, did you receive officers training in Canada then, or was that in the UK?
No, that was in the United Kingdom.
Right.
I was with the British. We took our officer training with the British.
Oh, you did, eh?
Yeah.
So you had British officers training?
Yeah, there was quite a number from the unit at that time. I guess there was about 12 of us that were taking the training. We went to different training units. I went to 163, along with Frank Smith and John Tierney from the unit.
Okay.
we were the only 3 Canadians to ever go to that particular officers training unit.
Right, right. Did they view you guys any differently because you're Canadians?
Well, sort of. Some of them were pretty hard on us, and some of them were pretty easy with us. At head octo, we had a company sergeant major, Riley, his name was, and he came from the Lancashire Regiment, the Loyal Lancashire Regiment, it was called, and he'd served under a Canadian officer in the Loyal Lancashire Regiment.
Oh, okay.
And who he liked very much. He took quite a liking to us. He was pretty easy with it.
Right.
The regimental sergeant major, he was from the Grenadier Guards, and he was a tough old guy.
Yeah, yeah. Were they all from the First World War type thing?
No, a lot of the seniors were, but the actual physical training NCOs, they were young fellas.
Right, right. Okay. What was training camp like in Canada first? As an infantryman, what was training camp like?
Well, I don't know. It was kind of boring in a way, in a lot of ways. A lot of repetition on things. Mm-hmm. Of course, there were new things coming out all the time, which made a difference. You know, when we started out at the beginning, we were, as a machine gun battalion, we were using World War I
right, I
thinking
heard that.
and tactics, and we had used to line up in platoons in 4 ranks. Well, then right at the beginning of the war, it changed. We used 3 ranks instead of the 4, and the drill changed a little bit, and we had very little equipment to speak of, and then as we progressed in our training and the war progressed, we got more and more equipment and more modern equipment. So there was a lot of changes, and it was interesting. But as I say, there's a lot of repetition on things. It became quite boring.
Right. When did the regiment move from being a machine gun regiment to a motor? That
was in the late 1940 when we were in the Hotel Vancouver.
Right, so it was before you went over then.
Yeah.
And so did you get new equipment then, or did you not get it till you went over?
When we were made a motor battalion, nobody knew what it was all about. And we didn't get much in the way of equipment at all.
Right.
Until we got to Camp Borden in the spring of 1941. That's when we started to get more motorized equipment, though it wasn't the standard motor battalion equipment. We didn't get a lot of that until we got to the UK. But we had training from, we had a couple of officers from the Rifle Brigade from the United Kingdom that came to Canada, and they supervised our training.
Right, okay, I see. What was your journey like across the Atlantic?
Going over the advance party, there was a group of about 30 of us, 2 officers, Major Ribbett and Lieutenant Neary. I was a corporal at the time, though I didn't know it. I was made a sergeant while I was proceeding overseas.
Oh, okay.
I wish I'd been made a sergeant before I got on the boat. It had a little different accommodation, but
oh, I see. Right.
As a senior NCO, but it was interesting. I remember the second day out, woke up in the morning and it was foggy, couldn't see anything. Weather was rough and it was snowing, and we had that for a day or 2, didn't see anything. And one morning I got up on deck and looked out, and everything was clear. The ocean was quite calm, and here we're supposed to be in convoy of about 20 other ships along with naval escort.
Right.
There wasn't anything in sight.
You guys get lost or what happened?
Nothing. I don't know what it was all about. It wasn't long before a destroyer came out of the blue from nowhere and came up alongside.
Right.
used a megaphone and yelled back and forth to the bridge on board our troop ship.
Right.
And it wasn't long before everybody seemed to get back together again, and we got it back into convoy.
Right. How long did it take getting over?
I was trying to remember the other day how long it was. It seemed to me it must have been about 8 or 9 days.
Quite a while,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah. And so, so when you got to the UK, that's when you took your officer's training.
Well, I went to, the unit came over and we were stationed in Aldershot.
Right.
And then we moved around the countryside a bit down to a place called Farnham. And then we went down to Brighton on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I left the unit to go to my... we went up to a place called Pippingford Park.
Mm.
I left from Pippingford Park to go to officer training.
Right, right. What was that like living, well, kind of living in the UK before going over to Italy? What was the experience like?
Well, it was different in some ways. When we were in Aldershot, we were in old barracks.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we left there, we went to living in quarters, housing that had been commandeered by the army.
Right. Okay.
We lived in quite a nice estate, actually. Company headquarters or battalion headquarters where I was, and then when we moved down to Brighton, we were in old houses along the waterfront in Brighton.
Oh, okay.
And so we were living right in the city, you might say, you know. So accommodations around, traveling around in the UK were different every time you moved, a different type of housing. You know,
right, right.
Or in old barracks or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever go on leave while you were?
Oh yeah, I had lots of leave.
What sorts of things would you guys do?
Oh, I had some relatives in the UK, which I went and visited. And we had to go up to London, of course. That was always the big deal, to go to London.
That was a place to be, right?
That was the place to be. But then there was lots of other places. I took leave and went up to Edinburgh. Yeah. And of course I had relations down around Plymouth. So I went down there a few times.
Right. Tell me about when you found out you were going to Italy. What was that like?
We were kind of happy, really. Sort of got tired of all the training and the hurry up and wait in the UK, you know.
Right.
And when we got notice that we were being sent down to Italy, we were quite happy about it.
Right, right. Where were you first stationed there?
In Italy?
Yeah.
A place called Avellino.
Avellino.
Just near Naples.
Right. Describe the environment of Italy at the time when you arrived. The people and what you guys were doing.
Well, the first place, of course, everybody thought we were going to sunny Italy.
Right.
And we arrived in Naples. We got off the boat there. It was not bad. Fairly warm. Got on to it started out, we were all going to be in the offices and using coaches 1 and 2, and the other ranks in coaches 3, 4, 5, and 6 to go to Avellino. And they weren't coaches, they were boxcars. And we finally left after a lot of kerfuffle in the railway station, which was all bombed.
Right.
And we were the only train in there. We finally left. And it got dark and cold. We were going around up in the mountains. There was snow all over the place. And actually, Naples to Avellino, we could probably do it in a truck in an hour and a half. But on the train, it took us all night. And because we were only about an hour and a half to go, we had a fellow who went ahead with a vehicle. Brumpton, his name was, Lieutenant Brumpton. He said, give me all your baggage and I'll take it in the truck so you don't have to cart it around. Well, so we gave them everything, great coats and everything else. And here we are in a boxcar, freezing to death. You know?
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. So when did you first see action then?
It wasn't until May.
Right.
Because I went over as a reinforcement officer then to the unit, and I wasn't called up. I had to go through the holding unit and the advanced holding unit, 4 Battalion, and so I went up in May of 44.
44. Yeah, 44. What were your duties as an officer in Italy, and did you have the same thing? You do the same thing the whole time, or what?
Well, of course, when I was with the regiment, I commanded a motor platoon,
Right.
which is it's infantry work, but our organization was such that we had 4 armored scout cars, white scout cars to each platoon, and each section had their own vehicle and a platoon headquarters vehicle, and so we used a lot of mobile tactics,
Right.
but we didn't fight from those vehicles. We had to go to the ground and fight as infantry.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But the only thing is, our particular job and the way we were organized, we had the battalion had a lot of firepower, and but when we went to ground, we didn't have too much in the way of manpower because the number of vehicles we had, the drivers, we didn't put as many people on the ground as an infantry battalion would.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
But with a heavier fire, we got more firepower.
Right. And so you would go in and then come out, and then
Well, we were always advancing and holding a section of the line and whatever until we were relieved by infantry, and then advance further on again.
Oh, I see. I see how.
And it was not uncommon for us as a company to hold which an infantry battalion would hold.
Right. Right. Okay. So you personally, you're a commanding officer. Did you any sort of exercises or campaigns that you went on personally that remain sort of vivid experiences for you?
Well, I know it always seems to me that one always seems to remember the real good times, and
Yeah.
and a lot of the tough times you sort of forget about,
Right. Right.
All I can remember a lot is the rain and the mud and the cold. And one always got a lot of frustrated by hurrying up to get somewhere to do something and have to wait before you did it,
Right.
And as far as actual action is concerned, there's lots of incidents, small incidents, one sticks in your mind,
Yeah.
I remember particularly, because the day I got wounded, but a lot of the other actions, I don't know, you just seem to forget,
Right. Now, from talking with you before, you went to Florence, is that right?
Yeah, when I went up to the unit as a reinforcement officer in May, the unit came out of the line on May the 29th, and when we came out of the line for a rest, the unit was overstrength by one officer.
Okay.
And when I went up as a reinforcement officer, there was about 5 of us, and in alphabetical order, Tyler, I was the last man on the totem pole, so when we had the surplus of officers, I went back to the reinforcement unit, because the unit was out of the line, going to take a rest, so it would be some time before they got back into action again, so I went back to the reinforcement unit.
Right. And so what did you do in Florence?
Well, it all started one day in about the second day down the reinforcement unit, which everybody hated being down there because it was back to reviewing basic training, taking troops out to firing range, throwing grenades. And
So boring, really.
They're kind of boring. And the second day at breakfast, somebody said they're interviewing for people for a special unit. So after breakfast, I went and took a look at the board in the mess, and it said interviews for number 11 CU. I'll put my name down and see what that's all about. So I called in for an interview. Interviewed by this major. He asked me a lot of questions from the courses that I'd taken. One of the courses I'd taken was memory of the course, the name of it kind of escapes my mind, but it was just being dumped out into an area.
Survival type thing?
It's a survival type course, yeah.
Right.
And when I said I'd taken that course, he said, okay, you're just one of the types we're looking for. I said, fine. He said, be outside the audio room in an hour's time without air gear, and he said, you'll be assigned a Jeep. And there'll be a captain there, he'll tell you where to go. And I thought, yeah, that's great, I'm going to get a Jeep, you know.
Yeah.
So I said, fine, you know, I'm all ready to go. Yeah. Then when I was going out the door, I turned around and I said to him, I said, by the way, what's 11 CU? He said, oh, it's not 11 CU, it's number 1 ICU. I said, oh. And I got outside the door and I thought, what's number 1 ICU? Then I found out it was the number 1 intelligence collection unit, and it was part of the Allied Army headquarters in Italy.
Right.
We were being formed into a special intelligence company. They call it CSIC, Canadian Special Intelligence Company, CSI. So they call it the CSIC company. And so we went up to just outside of Caserta, where we finally got everybody together. There was 5 officers, and we had about 80 men.
Right.
The ranks. And we trained and organized for the city of Florence, which they didn't want to become a house-to-house fight. So they formed a brigade of partisans, or were in the process of trying to form a brigade of partisans to act as a buffer between the British and the German forces.
Right.
And one of the biggest problems they'd had is that when they took over a city, the intelligence people used to like to get all the records from the telephone companies and the power company and the railway and the post office and any large companies that were in operation, manufacturing or whatever. They like to get these records. Well, what happened, the advancing troops didn't have any care about documents or papers or anything like that.
Right.
They used to use them to sleep on and start fires and, you know, cooking up something or other. So they started to send intelligence people with these advanced forces. Well, the only thing is they lost a few of these intelligence officers, and these were highly trained people who they didn't want to lose, so they decided they were going to use the infantry officers, train us for doing particular jobs in Florence. And I guess we were classed as expendable. If something happened to us, it wasn't too much of a loss.
Right. I guess you didn't have any secrets to the Allied forces.
None, or, you know,
Right.
or if we got wounded or killed, it wasn't much of a loss. Really. It was just came one of the numbers.
Right. I see.
And so when we went into Florence, we had certain objectives. That's why we had the other ranks with us. We would try to get into like the telephone company, and I'd leave 5 or 6 fellows there to guard the building and keep looters out and whatever until such time as the city became absolutely free and the Allied armies were allowed to move in.
Right.
And then
So there were Germans there then?
Oh, they were patrolling up and down the streets all the time.
So how you guys, were you in uniform?
Yeah, we hear them coming or see them coming, and we dodge and hide. And,
No kidding, right?
oh, yeah.
Never thought of wearing plain clothes or anything like
No.
that? No?
No, I had a couple of experiences in the railway station in Florence. The station, the platforms were all connected by walkway tunnels,
Okay.
and the tunnels were all tiled. And we caught a German patrol in there late one afternoon, and they ran into the railway station and down into the tunnels. And I followed them. There was myself and three other fellows, and we chased each other into the tunnel in the dark. We could hear them ahead. So I said to the fellow, who was a corporal, actually, he was carrying a Thompson submachine gun. I said, give him a burst of machine gun, which he did. Well, I don't know if you've been in a tiled tunnel.
With a submachine gun fire.
The noise was horrific to start with. And, you talk about the symphony of fire out here, the bullets bouncing off the tile walls in the tunnel there. Boy, there were sparks flying all over the place. And the Germans fired back at us. So we thought, oh, that was enough of playing silly bugger with that. We had enough of that, so we just kept on chasing them. They finally ran out. There was a tunnel that ran out to the switching yard.
Mm-hmm.
And we chased them out there, and of course when they got outside here, we lost them in the dark.
Mm. Right. So different experiences like that, hey? Tell me about when you got injured.
Well, we crossed over the Lamoni River at a place called Villanova, and Eddie Holt he commanded a 2 platoon. He was on my left flank, and I was in amongst some houses, and right back of the houses, 10 feet of the houses, was a big high dike. And when we got over there, we were told before we went that there was no tanks in the area, no German tanks in the area. So we got over there, and we were going to move up into the main part of Villanova, which is just a small village. Mm. And we heard the usual clank, clank, clank of tanks. Somebody said, well, it sounds like tanks coming. I said, well, there must be ours on the other side of the river. I said, the intelligence report says there's no tanks over here. And all of a sudden, the road, there were about 6 houses, and the road made a little bend. And all of a sudden, around this bend came a very big German tank, and there was a big bang, and the house at the end of the street sort of disintegrated. And he was taking pot shots of the houses as he came down the road. And I thought, well, it's not very long before he's going to get down to us. And my Sergeant Thrasher, I said to bring up the Piat, which is the projector infantry anti-tank, is an anti-tank rocket type of weapon.
Oh, okay. Handheld or?
It's fired. You couldn't stand up to fire. You had to lay on the ground to fire.
Right.
He brought it up, and I said, well, no, you have to get up fairly close to it to really be effective, because it had a very low trajectory.
Okay.
So you had to wait till you got in fair range of it. So.
What is that? What's fair range?
Well, they say 100 feet, but we'd like to get up to about 50 feet.
So very close.
So you get really close. Right. And so I looked around the corner of the building and I saw the tank coming down. And I said, well, we just have to wait till he got up to a certain point, and I said, we'll let him have it. So my sergeant, I said, well, you take a look and see what you think. So he passed the hit to me. I laid it on the ground, and he also carried a rifle, and I held his rifle while he looked around the corner to see where the tanks were coming. and where they were and where we thought we'd wait till they came. And next thing I know, I was about 50 feet from the corner of the house. I slammed up against a building. The rifle I was still holding in my hand, but it was all broken. The wood stock of it was all gone. I couldn't let go of it. I had to pry my fingers off of it. And I looked up, and Sergeant Thrasher was laying on the ground. I called up to him, and he was dead, but not a mark on him. So I got shrapnel in my, broke all the fingers in my right hand, shrapnel in my elbow, Uncle shrapnel in my leg.
Pretty black and blue too, I guess.
Funny, you don't feel very much at the time.
Right. So did you just sort of stagger back to...
Well, I got the platoon together, and the position we were in was such that the platoon couldn't fight. We were jammed in between two buildings, so I got them back to a fire position, and the medicals then took over from me, and I laid around until it was getting...
Oh, okay.
So I had to wait till it got fairly dark, and then they rowed me across the river, and I got to a field hospital unit, and then down to number 1 general, I think it was called, in the CC. And then from the CC I went down to number 5 general in Rome.
In Rome, right. And is that where they did the surgery, or they do the surgery?
They did the surgery up in number 1.
Right. I guess you couldn't do much with a broken hand and fingers.
Christmas, New Year's Eve.
Is New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve. Came down on a hospital train for New Year's Eve.
1944.
1944.
Right. Okay. How long were you in the hospital for?
I guess about 6 weeks.
About 6 weeks. And did you find they treated you well?
Oh yeah, first class.
It was good, was it?
Yeah. No. As far as the medical services was concerned, I don't think anybody had any complaints.
Really, eh? Yeah.
No, they were first class.
Right. And was it a Canadian hospital?
All Canadian hospital.
It was all Canadian. Okay. Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about things like a regular, average day in Italy, if there was such a thing.
Well, I don't think there's any really such thing as an average day. It's a totally different country, a different environment. Different language. And of course, accommodations were a little different. When you were with the regiment, you were sleeping out in the open, or sometimes in a shed, or a house. Sometimes the house or the shed was complete. Sometimes it was all bombed, you know. And when you're out of the line, sometimes you're lucky, you're under canvas. Sometimes fairly decent housing, old houses, old buildings, which still gave you some protection from the environment. And there was always something to do. You always had to clean up your weapons and work on your vehicles. And there was always somebody sent out to look for extra food, see any chickens running around loose that they could
Right. I guess there's always...
Or any wine that we could liberate.
Liberating the wine. So did you have a relationship with the civilians then?
Well, some welcomed you with open arms. Some were a little on the nervous side.
Did you trade for food or anything like that?
Oh yeah, there was a little bartering going on of some sort.
What about food and things like that? have rations, or did they make food? Or
Oh well, we didn't get too much food from the Italians. The Italians wanted food from us,
Right.
basically. So we used to trade off sardines or bouillon beef or some of their homemade sausage or whatever they had, or they wanted to change.
Mm-hmm. Did you go? Was there a mess that you went to, or
Sometimes not.
you just made your own? Is that how it worked? Or?
Yeah.
I see.
Generally, when you were lucky, when you're out of the line, of course, the rations, you got hot meals cooked by company cooks, and the cooks generally were pretty good. Even when we were in the line, if there's a possibility of getting us hot stew or whatever, well, they would try to send it up, but it's not always possible,
Exactly, yeah, right. Tell me about things like mail service.
Well, mail was pretty good, but it came in bunches.
Right.
It wasn't like getting a daily mail service. You have to wait till a convoy of ships came in, and then 3 or 4 or 5 days later, the mail started to come in, and there wouldn't be anything for 2 or 3 weeks.
Did you have people back here that you wrote back and forth to?
Oh yeah. Well, of course, my family, my folks, mostly.
And how do they feel about you even being in the war?
Well, I don't know. They kind of accepted it, I guess. My dad, of course, had been an old naval type, and of course, I had cousins in the UK, which were all in the services.
Right.
And well, my mother and dad accepted it. There's a lot of my friends in New Westminster who I went to school with, all that. They were all in the services, Navy or Air Force.
Right. So it was really a part of your family.
They just, it's one of those things. I accepted it. My mother, I think, probably accepted it a little bit more than a lot of people. She was on the Athenia, which was the first ship torpedoed during the war. It was torpedoed on the first day of the war, 3rd of September.
No kidding.
She had been over there visiting my grandmother who had been sick, and she was supposed to come back in at the end of September, but they said the way things were going, it'd be advisable if they came home early. So she sailed, I think it was from Glasgow, I think it was on the 31st of August. And the war was declared on the Sunday morning, around 10 o'clock Sunday morning, and the ship was torpedoed on about 7 o'clock that night.
Almost right away, eh?
Almost right away.
Wow. So she had a first-hand opinion of the war.
Yeah. She was lucky she was up on deck when the ship was torpedoed. She got into a lifeboat right away. But she was 2 days in a lifeboat before she was picked up.
Okay, back to the war then. You were in the hospital for 6 weeks, you said, and then after that, did you come home then?
No, when I got out of the hospital, I went back to the holding unit in Avellino, and there I was back in the holding unit again, which I hated. And having breakfast again, and the adjutant of the holding unit said across to me, and he said, "You're a motor battalion officer." I'd only arrived down there, been there about 2 days. And he says, "How about take 50 drivers to 15 RVP, that's a recovery vehicle pool, pick up 50 trucks and take them to Texas camp in Naples." And the vehicle pool was only some 15 miles from Naples. I said, "Fine." And he said, I said, when do we do this? He says, "Right away." He says, "You can go and pick up 50 drivers." And he said, "You'll be back before noontime." And I said, "Well, I've heard that all before." I said, I'm not leaving. I said, with 50 guys unless we take a lunch with us. He said, oh, you don't have to worry about that. You'll be back by noontime. And I said, I won't go until we get 50 lunches. So he agreed to 50 lunches. And I said, now where are these drivers? He said, well, go to the parade and pick up 15 drivers. So I went out. I said, who can drive? And of course everybody puts their hand up. And so I picked 50 fellas. And away we went.
Huh.
And I was gone for 6 weeks.
Good thing you brought lunch.
Yeah, and I moved over 4,000 vehicles and trailers from Naples to Marseille.
Right.
We had to gather them all up from all over Italy, bring them down to Naples, and they were shipped out of there on Liberty ships to Marseille.
Right.
So I started out with 15. At one time I had about 350
Right.
fellas.
Really, hey? Yeah. Had a lot of different duties during the war.
Yeah. That made it all interesting.
Yeah, I bet. And so did you participate in the liberation of any countries then?
Not really.
No, because you got wounded, I guess, before.
No, I didn't have a chance to go up to Italy.
No. Okay.
Or up to Northwest Europe.
Right. So what happened when you were done with the 6 weeks? Were you back in the UK then?
At the end of that, I went right from there and got on board a cruise ship from Naples and arrived back in the UK the day before VE Day.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you were in England during for the big celebration?
Yep, I got off the boat and troop train down to Aldershot, and our kit was all laid out there, and they said, there's a meal for you if you want it, and or you go to bed. And by the time we got our kit and had something to eat, majority of people said, they weren't going to go to bed. They were going to catch the first train out, because they gave us a 14-day pass. 14? Nice. Yeah.
Oh.
So I was going to go and visit my relatives down in Plymouth. I collected my pass and cashed a check with the paymaster, and all set to go, and got on the train and got off the train at London. Had to catch a train from London and down to Plymouth. And everybody, that was on a Sunday morning. They said, oh, VE Day is going to be tomorrow.
Right.
So I stayed in London.
Right.
At least for first 5 days of my leave.
So what was that experience like? You must have heard Chamberlain.
Well, I heard a lot of people. The city went mad in a way, and yet it was, it was a happy mood,
Mm-hmm.
There's some streets you want to go up, you couldn't go up because of the crowd was all coming down one way,
Right.
You went with the flow.
Right.
And of course all the pubs were open. When you got a glass, you held on to it. If you lost your glass, you wouldn't be able to get a drink in the pub,
Right.
So you held on to your glass, and people just wandered around. Of course, they turned the lights on, and that's the first time the lights had been on in London since the beginning of the war.
That must have been an experience, seeing lights at night.
Yeah. And of course, so many people came down into the city.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a hope of getting out.
Right.
So people just, and there's no accommodation. Fortunately, it was fairly good weather.
You guys just sleep out in the
Some
park?
just slept in the park,
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I had a hotel room, but because I got that on the Sunday morning when I arrived, and I paid for 3 days for the hotel room, and never used it. I remember sleeping in Green Park for 2 nights.
Yeah.
Lost my shoes there. Took my shoes off and somebody stole them. I had to walk down the streets in my bare feet.
And in uniform.
Stocking feet in uniform, yeah. Till I found a place. The guy would sell me a pair of shoes.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. So do you have any, real memories or experiences that really stand out for you, apart from being injured in VE Day?
Oh, I don't know. There's just many things. To me nowadays, or even then, they're just small incidents,
Right.
really. They're just part of military life, and
Right.
we had some good times and had some miserable times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But as I say, you always seem to remember a lot of the good times, some of the leads you had with the guys, and some of the courses that I went on were interesting.
Mm.
But rough times, half of them you forget.
Yeah.
You forget how cold and miserable you were at times.
Tell me about your journey home, when you found out that you were coming home. Was that a good feeling, or did you want to stay in England, or?
Well, of course, things were winding down, and it wasn't too much. I wasn't with the regiment, and I was down at a home in England, and there wasn't much to do. The enthusiasm for training was zilch. And,
pretty low, yeah.
And everybody just wanted to see the goat and go up to London or Edinburgh or somewhere and just have a good time,
Right.
And then they were looking for people then for the Pacific Force. And so I signed up for the Pacific Force.
Oh, you did, eh?
And people that were going to the Pacific Force, of course, got preference for coming back home, which wouldn't make any difference anyway as far as I was concerned, because the people that were coming home, they worked it on a point system. How long you've been in the Army and how much time you'd had overseas, so they give you a certain number of points. So I had enough points to come back right away anyway.
Did you get extra points for things like being on the front lines?
No, just time. Just time.
I see.
So I had enough points to come back right away anyway. But I said I came back to go to the Pacific Force.
And did you ever?
No, because when we got back to Canada here, I was on leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out with a fellow, we were out fishing, as a matter of fact, out at Horseshoe Bay.
Oh, yeah.
And we were floating around out there, and some guy went by in a boat. He said, "Did you hear the news?" And I said, "What's that?" He said, "The Japanese have capitulated." He said, "The war is over."
No kidding.
So we went back into Horseshoe Bay, and he went home, I went home, and we went over to some friend's place over in Vancouver, and had a little bit of a party, a family party, and friends.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
That was it. And then you were done.
So then I had to just wait for discharge. Of course, we had an opportunity then to stay with the Active Service Force or take the discharge. And of course, before the war, the Canadian Army there was only 4,000 in the Canadian Army. And here we had thousands now that are going to be discharged and start looking for work or whatever. Might as well get out now, because even if you volunteered to stay in the Active Service Force, that was no guarantee at that time that you would be staying in the Army,
Right.
You might stay in the Active Service Force for a year or two and then you'd be out.
Right.
So I thought, well, might as well get out and get my civilian life organized.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took my discharge in December 16th, 1945.
Right. What sort of things were provided for you when you were discharged?
Well, you had reestablishment credits.
Right.
That was based on 25 cents a day in Canada and 50 cents a day overseas.
Oh, I see. Okay. And what about the people, the civilians in Canada? What sort of attitudes did they have towards people like you coming into the workforce?
Well, things were a lot different then. you know, there's over 1 million people that have been in the armed services. There's well over 1 million people who, civilians, have been employed in war work.
Right.
And of course there's those that were employed in normal jobs around. And, I think they were quite sympathetic to the veterans, giving preference.
So, did you find it hard finding work when you were done?
Well, no, because I went back to, before the war, I worked for C.C. Bell Motors in Westminster.
Okay.
They were a Chrysler Plymouth dealer, and I went back to work for them.
Oh, okay.
Right off the bat.
Okay.
So I worked for them for a couple of years, and then I ventured off on a couple of other things which didn't work out. Didn't appeal to me. At the time it looked good, but it didn't appeal to me. Then I ended up by working for the Department of Veterans Affairs, which I worked for them for 30 years.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. And so, do you think that veterans have been treated well then?
Well, being a former employee of the Department of Veterans Affairs, I think so.
Yeah.
First, there's always people that had problems, and like everything else, everything has to be done sort of by rules and regulations and by the book, and a lot of fellows couldn't quite see this in some incidents. During the war, most things were pretty well documented. Your record, when you got injured, it was documented. When you got wounded, it was documented. And whatever took place in your life, your life was pretty well documented all the way along the line. But there were a number of fellows who had an injury, and for some reason or other they didn't report it. They didn't want to go through the medical system and end up back at the holding unit again before they came up to the unit, and things like that. So, and then after the war, some of these minor injuries became a little bit more serious, and then they wanted to apply for a pension or whatever, and no record.
Right.
So then they have to get some sort of proof, gathering up information, or statement from people with them at the time or whatever.
Which is a lot of work.
And we had a department over there, a section that could help fellows do this. Some people were, disappointed in the system, but they didn't accept people really at their word. You had to provide proof, of the injury or whatever.
Right. Which makes sense.
That's right.
Right. Do you belong to any veterans organizations?
Just the Westminster Regiment Association.
Right. And then what has that provided you with?
Comradeship.
Yeah.
Maintain old friendships.
Right. And so have you maintained contacts and friendships from the war?
Well, yeah. I still have an old friend back east. And I write to once in a while. Letters get less and less, it seems, every year.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's people around here maintain contact with. I was involved with the Regimental Museum.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it all started when we opened up an old room in the Army, which has been boarded up, and found some interesting artifacts there, which Padre Pearson, who was the Anglican Padre to the touch the unit, he and I gathered this stuff up. Along with the colonel, decided that we should have some sort of a museum and keep all this stuff. We started to gather up things, and then it got to a point where doing our regimental duties was a little difficult. So it was taken over by the association.
Right.
And they formed a museum committee, which I worked on for, 40 years ago. And at one time, I was curator of the museum for 5 years.
Oh, okay. Oh, lots of involvement there.
And I still go down and help them once in a while. I'm still interested in regimental history.
Right.
And military history of the area and the province.
Right. What does it mean to you to be a veteran?
Well, I don't know, I just feel kind of proud that I did a duty that the country required, and I think that's how most veterans feel. And, there was a need for a job to be done, and they all took their part in doing it, and I think they feel that they accomplished something.
Right.
Sometimes you look around and you think, what happened to it all, and things were quite normal for a while, and now things change.
Right.
Attitudes have changed, and of course since September the 11th, attitudes have changed again,
Quite suddenly.
Quite suddenly, that's right. Canada's, I'm very disappointed in the government over the years. They've let the military forces go down and down and down and down to the point that in some cases, our troops are fairly well trained. They've got a good attitude and everything else. A bit of a laughing stock in some ways because our equipment is poor and outdated. Now after September the 11th, the government and the people are starting to change their attitudes, and now they decide that maybe they need a better army and a better equipped army.
How do you observe Remembrance Day?
Well, I go down to the army every Remembrance Day.
Right.
Take part in the service.
Right.
Still marching with a few of the old crocs that can make it.
Yeah. And does your family observe it with you then? Is that how it goes? Or?
Some of the grandchildren that come down to the services with me. But as I say, I don't have any right close. I have 2 granddaughters down in White Rock, and then I have a grandson in Calgary.
Right.
And 3 grandsons that are a granddaughter, and 2 grandsons down in the Cayman Islands. So
they're all over.
So, actually, as a family, there's nothing to really get together, nobody around to get together with,
Right.
But the grandchildren were always interested.
Do you think there's anything through the interview that I've missed or that you'd like to mention before we finish the interview?
Oh, I don't think so. I think probably it's been an interesting afternoon for a talk. I'm ready for my check.
Good. Well, thanks a lot, Mr. Tyler.
Yeah, okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good.